any I'm just going to tell you my story, and I hope that in telling you my story, I will encourage you. So I am the proud aunt of Laolu, but before Laolu, I am also the proud aunt of another nephew called Damola. Now, Damola is my older sister's son, and he was the first of all the nephews and nieces, the first of my parents' grandchildren. And I remember the very first day I met this young man. He was a few months old because I was in school in the north, and in Jos, and he was born in Lagos. And I remember thinking, he's very small, but of course, not being an aunt, I didn't know any difference. And I think that is where God is amazing, because later on, this young man was diagnosed as having Down syndrome. Now, given that my sister and her husband are both doctors, and my sister was 25 at the time, the idea that they would have a child that had Down syndromes did not even cross their minds. But God is actually amazing. Somebody mentioned earlier that he will not give you something you cannot carry. And God, I believe, picks those parents, those people he believes can look after his special children. Because both my sister and her husband are doctors. They are both siblings of doctors, children of doctors, that sort of thing. So there was none of this, there was no disinformation about why they had a Down's child. There was nothing about, oh, the village has done its worst, or there was something you must have done in the past, or there was a curse on your family. No. Down syndrome is not hereditary. It happens. So there I am. I then get married into the Gbadebo family. And at the time I got married, AVM and Mrs. Gbadebo, who I had met when I was just a girlfriend, were always very nice to me. And they had this absolutely beautiful baby boy called Rotimi. They went on to have another one, Dayo, who is our host today. And then they had Laolu. And again, this is not a situation where, maybe because they were badly behaved, or maybe these were believing Christians. AVM was an Air Vice Marshal, he was in the Air Force, rose to Air Vice Marshal. Mrs. Gbadebo, my senior sister, was a very competent homemaker. So why? And you may ask yourself, why? But my mother of blessed memory would say, why not? And again, I would encourage you and say, God chose to give them Laolu because he knew what they would do with the gifts that he has given them. So I want to tell you two testimonies about one and the other. And I would like to crave your indulgence, if you don't mind, if you would allow me to share my screen. I want to show you a picture of my nephew, Damola, to encourage you. So, please, do I have your permission to just share a picture of my nephew?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I want to share this picture of my nephew. Let me see if I can I'll share the screen, and then I'll share a picture of my nephew. Hang on, just bear with me a second. This is my nephew, Damola Roberts, and you can see the number of medals he has. Damola Roberts is the first of my parents' 11 grandchildren, and the sixth of Brashe's parents' 12 grandchildren. And among these grandchildren, you have people who have first degrees in mathematics, architecture, and medicine, and all sorts of things. And then you have Damola. Damola has Down syndrome. Damola cannot talk. At the age of 39, my darling Damola has the mind of a 5-year-old. And yet, to his credit, to the benefit, to the glory of God, Damola is the most decorated Nigerian Olympian there is, having represented Nigeria in Special Olympics, in swimming, in Beijing, in Ireland, in Greece, in Los Angeles. So what does that say? It says that, like my brother-in-law Sheyi would always say, of all his children, This special child is the one who has brought him worldwide recognition. And my brother-in-law is a Harvard-trained neurologist. My sister, a professor of medicine. And look at their son. Look at the blessing he has brought. So that is testimony number one. Second testimony has to do with my darling nephew, Laulu, who we saw earlier, smiling and blowing kisses at us. We have a young man who, to all intents and purposes, cannot talk, cannot move, cannot do anything. And yet, through him, from the grace that God gave to his parents, we now have an advocacy group, Benola, that has been represented around the world. Now, I don't have a quote-unquote specially abled child. I don't, not of my birth. But I do have two specially abled sons, in Damola, whose picture I showed you, and Laolu, who we celebrate. If not for Laolu, we would not have Benola. If not for Benola, I wouldn't know as much as I do about cerebral palsy. I wouldn't know as much as I do even about other special abilities that children can be born with. Because both Laolu and Adedamola went to the same special school, and then I met other children with autism and all sorts of other childhood things that can cause a child to be different from their peers. But here's the thing, and this is what I want you guys to think about. Now, I'm a Christian. I cannot quote chapter and verse like my cousin and big brother, Dr. Boy. But I can tell you that having read the Bible, there is nowhere in the Bible that God makes a distinction between those of us who consider ourselves to be fully able and those who we consider to be specially able. In fact, there was a question, I think, asked of one that, what did his parents sin, or did he sin that he ended up like this? And the answer is no. We are in a world where these things happen. And God looks at each and every one of us and determines what are the abilities of this person that I can give them a gift. So I almost feel like telling you that whether you accept it or not, the child that you have been given is a gift that God has given you for a reason that best suits him. And as his children, it behoves us to take this gift and use it for the benefit of mankind. Now, I don't always have time, but I like to ride my bicycle. So how do I contribute? I contribute into the lives of my nephews and the lives of their families by using my cycling, which is my passion, and my hobby that Dr. Boyu spoke about, to raise funds, to raise awareness for the causes that are special to me, like Down syndrome, like cerebral palsy, like Special Olympics, like Benola. So I've picked those 4 things to represent when I cycle. And what does it say of all of us who are so-called able-bodied? If you are the parent, brother, sister, or child, or, well, probably not child, but parent, brother, or sister of a special child, then seek support from the wider community. If, on the other hand, you are the auntie like me, or uncle, or friend, or cousin of someone who has a special child, then be their support. The Bible is very clear, and I'm sure as is the Quran, that we are our brother's keepers. So I would like to encourage you all to say that look at the two, especially today, look at Laolu and the benefits he has brought to all of you by not personally getting up and saying anything himself, but by the advocacy from ADM and Mrs. Gbadebo and the care and the joy given to him by his brothers Rotimi and Dayo. Look at the benefit that it has benefited us all to understand the situations that families like this go through, to advocate to government to come up with laws and decrees that would assist parents and those who are disabled. Sorry, that's my timer going off. But unlike Dr. Boy, I'm going to ignore it for 2 more minutes. And then just bless God for whatever it is. The Bible says in all things give thanks. So I would say in all things give thanks. I would also encourage any person who is here who is not personally directly affected to then use the best things that they have, which is their network of friends and family, to continue to advocate for those in our society who are not as able to speak for themselves. I have 2 nephews, neither of whom can speak a word, and yet their messages have gone around the world. So I'd like to encourage you all today. I'd like to thank AVM and Mrs. Gbadebo for being wonderful, wonderful custodians to a fantastic nephew of mine. I'd like to thank Rotimi and Dayo for the love that they've given to their brother and for being examples to all of us as to how to be family. I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to stand here and talk about 2 people who are very, very special to me, and to encourage you as you continue this walk of life, because notice I'm also disabled, continue this walk of life, to in all things give thanks, and in all things think, what can I do to help my neighbor, my friend, to actually live the best life that they can live? Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auntie EREJUWA. Board member, Benola Advisory Board. You did, obviously you wouldn't mention it, but I still remember, and Lalu definitely still thanks you to this day. As my auntie says, she rides for causes, and I remember a couple of years ago she rode and rose a lot of pounds. I can't remember how much exactly, but in the thousands, to get Laulu his special CP wheelchair that he still uses till today. So thank you so much for all you do, and thank you for your love and your support to the family. God bless you.
Can I just say, I rode the bicycle, but it was my network of friends that put the money in. That's what I'm saying. You can use whatever you have. Please, guys.
Yes.
You're
But
never
it started
alone.
with you. If you didn't think it, it wouldn't have happened. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
God bless you. Mr. D, just 1 minute.
Okay.
Time is fast spent. So we're going to have to cut down the time for anyone who wants